All right, here's a cool story. From a single mother living paycheck to paycheck in the 1970s to rising to become the semiconductor industry's first female CEO, Chris King shattered expectations, and she joins us now in studio with her new book, Breaking Through the Silicon Ceiling, which will be released on July 1st. So, Chris, thank you for being here. You know, in our world right now, so often we hear about the reasons why people can't do things. They're held back. They lack privilege. You clearly didn't have any privilege back in the 70s when you started this journey. You're running a semiconductor company. How did you do that? How did you break through?
Well, it was a great journey, and thanks for having me. But yeah, I started out in a rundown trailer park with a happy 18-month-old toddler and zero money. And I figured there had to be some way out of there. So I decided to go to school, and my very first sales job was talking my welfare caseworker into allowing me to go to college while I was on welfare. And I started out to be a teacher. But partway through my curriculum, I met a guy who tinkered with electronics, and I said, I think I'll take the first semester of engineering. Why not? And then I learned you could make money at this job. And luckily, there was an IBM facility nearby within driving distance. So when I graduated, I went there and worked on the very first automated semiconductor line, which led to a 50-year career, pretty much being the only woman in the room.
I love that story. A couple of my career moves were based on people that I met along the way, so they inspired me. But having said that, when I worked on Wall Street, your story really resonated with me because I was a fresh, analyst out of school, and they said, you're going to cover semiconductors. And I said, I don't want to cover semiconductors. I want to do retail. And they said, do you just want to be a boring girl that does the retail sector? You're going to learn about semis. So I was kind of forced into it. But for other young women who are out there that might be looking at this as a profession, how can they become more interested or not find it so intimidating? Because that's what it was for me.
Well, it's just kind of math and common sense, so it shouldn't be intimidating to anyone. And I think as I went along, it was a great journey because it's like, what's wrong with being in a room full of men? I mean, that's not such a bad deal. And but there's ways that we have to navigate things. And so there were some tough setbacks in my career, and I really had to work hard to get where I did. But I learned a lot along the way that I wanted to share in this book.
If I'm staying at home and I either want to invest in a semiconductor or start a semiconductor industry or a company, what leadership skill do you think right now is needed most if I want to become the next Nvidia?
The next Nvidia, what a great company. But I think it's, first of all, don't sweat the small stuff. A lot of times people worry about what people are calling me. Early in my career, a guy comes into the copy room. I'm making a copy of my circuit design. He shoves this big pile of papers and says, here, make these copies and put them in my office. Bring them to my office. And I'm like, oh, should I say, no, I'm an engineer? But no, I said, oh, I'm going to make the copies, bring them to his office. He didn't feel very great about that. But also my advice is, look for the white space. In my day, I was designing a computer with the first microprocessor at the same time, Steve Wozniak. You guys are talking about Apple.
Yeah.
And we met later in life and talked about that, which was great. But I look for what's new because in technology, you can make a leap. AI is the great example for that now. It's like, I would say, find ways to use AI. There's tons of use cases.
Such a cool blend of humility and tenacity, don't you think? It's such a rare thing to find. Chris, awesome story. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
You bet.